The night sky of Vera burned with fire. A single streak of light tore across the heavens, bright enough to wake the jungle and make even the fiercest predators hide. The alien tribe of women, gathered near their great fire, froze as the ground shook beneath them. Their drums stopped. Their chants ended. Every eye turned upward. The elders whispered that the gods were angry, but the younger warriors saw something different, something falling. A vessel, broken and burning, crashing through the trees. The jungle roared with thunder as the object hit the ground far away, lighting the forest in red flames. For centuries, the women of the Veran tribe had lived without men. Long ago, the balance was lost and men vanished from their world. Now they lived as warriors, hunters, and leaders, carrying their bloodline with sacred rituals and secrets known only to them. Stories of men had become myths, told only by firelight. But tonight a myth had fallen from the sky. Their leader, High Huntress Kaelin, raised her spear. Her golden tattoos glowed in the firelight, marking her as chosen by the spirits. "Gather the hunters," she commanded. "Something has come from the stars. If it is danger, we will kill it. If it is gift, we will claim it." The warriors moved like shadows, tall figures with braided hair and weapons carved from bone and crystal. They marched into the jungle, their eyes sharp, their steps silent. Far away, James Carter's eyes snapped open. His head rang like broken bells. Smoke filled the cockpit of his shuttle, and sparks danced across shattered panels. His last memory was clear. The engine had failed, his systems had gone dark, and the planet's gravity had dragged him down. Now he lay half-buried in wreckage, bruised, bleeding, but alive. He coughed, pulled himself free, and stumbled into the thick alien air. The jungle loomed around him, vast trees with glowing leaves, vines alive with strange movements, and the echo of creatures he couldn't name. His comms were dead. His emergency beacon was broken. He was alone. James didn't notice the eyes watching him from the shadows. The tribe reached the wreck site before dawn. They moved carefully, circling the broken metal beast. None of them had ever seen such a thing before, but they treated it like prey. Spears raised, bows drawn. And then they saw him. A figure, small compared to them, his body covered in strange fabric, his skin pale, his face sharp. Kaelin stepped forward, her voice steady. "What is this?" the younger warriors murmured. "A spirit? Or a curse?" "No," one whispered, her eyes wide. "It is a man." The word spread like fire. Man, a word many had never spoken aloud. James, dizzy and weak, saw them too late. He raised his hands, trying to show peace, but the women moved with lightning speed. Spears pinned him to the ground. He shouted, but they did not understand. Kaelin studied him. Her sharp eyes scanned his chest, his arms, his face. Everything about him was wrong and strange, yet something in her blood told her this was no spirit. This was flesh. This was real. The old songs were true, one of the elders breathed. Men once walked, and now one has returned. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others growled in fear. Kaelin silenced them all. "Enough. If this creature is truly a man, then his life belongs to the tribe. But we must test him. If he is weak, he dies. If he is danger, he dies." James didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. His life now balanced on a knife's edge. They dragged him back to their village at dawn. The jungle opened into a clearing filled with towering huts built of wood, bone, and glowing crystal. Hundreds of women gathered, their voices rising in shock when they saw him. Some reached out to touch as if to test if he was real. The High Huntress raised her hand. Silence fell. "This is no ghost," she declared. "This is no dream. The gods have sent us what we lost." But her eyes stayed cold, her spear never lowered. That night James sat in a cage made of bone, his mind racing. His body ached, his stomach growled, and fear gnawed at him. He had survived the crash, but he didn't know if he could survive these people. From the shadows, a young woman approached. She was smaller than the others, her tattoos faint, her expression softer. She carried a bowl of water. Slowly, she pushed it through the bars. James took it, their eyes meeting for the first time. There was no language between them, but he saw kindness in her gaze. She whispered a word he could not understand. Then she vanished back into the night. The drums began to sound, loud, heavy, a rhythm of judgment. Kaylin stood before the cage, her spear glowing in the firelight. "Tomorrow," she declared, her voice ringing through the camp, "the stranger will face the trial of fire. If he lives, he belongs to us. If he dies, the gods will have their answer." The crowd roared. James gripped the bars, his heart pounding. He didn't know what the trial of fire was. He only knew one thing: if he failed, he was dead. The fire burned brighter. The tribe chanted, and James realized the jungle wasn't the only danger on this world. The true danger was the people who had found him. The jungle night was never silent, but tonight it was alive with drums. The steady thump echoed across the clearing, rattling the bone cage where James sat. Every beat reminded him of his situation: alone, unarmed, and surrounded by an alien tribe of women who saw him as either a curse or a gift. He had survived a crash through fire and sky, but now survival depended on something else, facing a trial he didn't understand. The first light of dawn painted the alien village in shades of gold. Smoke rose from tall huts, and the air carried the smell of strange herbs. Women of every age gathered, their eyes fixed on the cage where James sat. He could feel their stares. Some looked at him with awe, some with suspicion, and others with hunger, as if they expected him to prove something that would change their lives. The high huntress Kaylin stood before him. Her tattoos gleamed in the morning sun. Her voice carried power, sharp as steel. "You are no spirit," she declared in her tongue. "You are flesh. You are blood. And today you must face the trial of fire." James didn't understand her words, but the tone was clear. His chest tightened. Trial meant test. Fire meant danger. Two warriors pulled him out of the cage. Their grips were strong, their height towering over him. They led him through a crowd that parted like waves. The tribe chanted as he passed, their voices rising in rhythm with the drums. James stumbled, his legs weak, but his mind raced. He looked around for an escape, but the village was surrounded by jungle, and hundreds of spears glinted in the sun. Running meant death. He would have to face whatever they planned. The warriors pushed him into a great circle marked with burning torches. The earth inside was blackened, as if many trials had been held here before. Bones decorated the edges. Some were animal. Some looked human. James swallowed hard. The high huntress lifted her spear and spoke loudly to the tribe. Though he could not understand, her words shook the air. "If he is strong, he may stay. If he is weak, he will burn. If he is danger, he will die." The crowd roared. James stood in the circle, his heart pounding. He had no weapon, no armor, only his bare hands. His eyes darted around. What would they make him face? Then the ground trembled. A wooden gate creaked open at the far side of the circle, and something huge crawled out. It was a beast. 4 legs, armored hide, eyes glowing green. Its jaws opened, spilling smoke, and its roar shook the torches. James staggered back. He had seen many things in his life as a pilot, but nothing like this. The tribe cheered. The trial had begun. The beast lunged. James rolled to the side, dirt scraping his arms. He ran, but the circle was closed. No way out. The creature's tail smashed into the ground where he had stood moments before, spraying soil into the air. James's mind screamed at him to fight smart. He couldn't match the beast's strength, but maybe he could use speed. He grabbed a broken torch from the ground. Flames licked the wood, heat burning his skin, but it was all he had. The beast charged again. James thrust the torch into its face. The flame startled it, and it reared back, giving him precious seconds. The tribe gasped. They had not expected him to resist, but the beast was not done. It circled him, faster now, jaws snapping. James's arms ached, his chest burned, but he refused to fall. From the edge of the circle, James caught sight of her, the young alien woman who had given him water the night before. Her eyes met his, wide with fear. She whispered something, a word he couldn't hear, but her gaze gave him strength. The beast roared again and lunged. James dropped to the ground, rolling beneath it, and jammed the torch into its softer belly. Flames spread across its scales, smoke rising as it shrieked. The tribe's chants rose higher. Some shouted in anger, others in awe. James staggered to his feet, covered in dirt and sweat. The beast writhed, then collapsed with a final, shaking roar. The circle fell silent. Kaylin stepped forward, her eyes unreadable. She studied James as he panted, blood dripping from a cut on his arm. "He is not weak," she said to the tribe. "He is not prey." Some warriors growled in protest. "He is danger, he is trickster, he must die." Others shook their heads. He survived the fire. The spirits favor him. The tribe split in their cries, half calling for his death, half whispering that he was chosen. Kaylin raised her hand for silence. She turned to James. Her eyes burned like fire, but there was something else in them now, something almost curious. "The trial of fire is past," she said, "but one trial is not enough." The crowd roared again, this time in shock. Mies, still breathing hard, stared at her. He didn't know her words, but he understood her meaning well enough. This was far from over. That night, back in the cage, James sat in silence. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his mind burned. He had proven himself once, but Kaylin's cold stare haunted him. The young woman appeared again, slipping close when no one watched. She handed him a strip of fruit wrapped in leaves. James took it, his eyes full of questions. She pointed to herself and whispered a name, Lyra. Her voice was soft, but it carried warmth. Then she was gone again. James leaned against the cage wall, whispering the name to himself. Lyra. Outside, the drums returned. The sound was slower now, heavier, like a warning. James realized with a chill that the trial of fire was only the beginning. The jungle sky was red when the horns sounded. Loud, sharp blasts shook the village, and women rushed from their huts. Spears flashed, bows raised, and the chanting stopped. The trial of fire had ended, but something new had begun. James sat inside the cage, his body still aching from the battle with the beast. He lifted his head as the noise grew louder. This wasn't the rhythm of drums, it was warning. Something dangerous was coming. The high huntress Kaylin stood at the center of the clearing, her spear glowing in the firelight. She looked at James, as if she already knew what would follow. "Not enough," she said in her tongue, her voice hard as stone. "The gods test deeper. One beast proves nothing, now he must face the tribe." James couldn't understand the words, but the sudden roar of the women made the message clear. This wasn't over. He had defeated the monster, but now they wanted him to fight warriors. Them. The cage opened. Two strong hands dragged him out and pushed him into the circle once again. The clearing shook with the stamping of feet. A line of warriors stepped forward, tall and powerful, each armed with curved blades and spears. Their braided hair swung as they moved, their tattoos glowing faintly like stars on their skin. James looked at them in shock. They were bigger, stronger, and far more skilled than he could ever be. His body was already weak. His arms trembled from holding the torch the day before. But running wasn't an option. Kaylin lifted her spear and shouted something. The first warrior stepped into the circle. The trial had become war. The woman attacked with speed that left James stunned. Her spear cut the air where his chest had been a second earlier. He dropped low, rolling away, his body screaming in pain. Dirt filled his mouth, but he forced himself up. She came again, and James had only one chance. His mind. Not strength, not power, just quick thinking. He grabbed a broken bone shard from the ground, barely big enough to use. When the warrior lunged, he dodged and slammed the shard into her leg. She stumbled, and James kicked her spear away. The tribe gasped. A human had disarmed one of their best fighters. But James didn't finish her. He stepped back, holding the shard like a dagger, breathing hard. He didn't kill, he only survived. The crowd murmured in confusion. They had expected blood. The second warrior came, fiercer than the first. She swung her blade and James barely escaped the strike. The edge cut his arm, blood flowing fast. Pain shot through him, but he bit back a scream. He dodged again, circling, the warrior searching for weakness. He found it. Her speed made her careless. At the last second he dropped to the ground, swept her legs out, and she fell hard. The tribe erupted with shouts. Some were angry, others amazed. Kaylin's eyes narrowed. She saw something in James now, something she hadn't seen in centuries. A man who fought not like a beast but with skill and heart. The third warrior stepped forward and James's body almost collapsed. He could barely stand. His breath came ragged and his vision blurred. He knew he couldn't fight many more. The warrior raised her blade. James braced himself, but before the fight could start, the earth trembled. A deep growl rolled across the clearing. The torches flickered. Women turned their heads, fear flashing in their eyes. From the jungle came a roar, louder, darker, older than the beast James had faced before. The trees shook as something massive pushed through. James froze. The creature that emerged was unlike anything he had seen. It was taller than the huts, its body covered in black scales that shimmered with green light. Its jaws split wide, filled with rows of jagged teeth. The tribe screamed. "The Old One," the elders cried. "The god of the jungle awakens." Even Kaylin's face tightened. This was no trial. This was death. The warriors broke formation, raising their weapons, but fear shook their hands. James's heart thundered. He had no weapon, no armor, no strength left. But he knew one thing. The beast wasn't after them. It was after him. The creature's glowing eyes locked on James and it roared. The tribe scattered as the monster charged. James stumbled backward, his legs refusing to move fast enough. The ground cracked beneath its steps, trees snapping like twigs. He ran, diving aside as the beast's claw slammed into the earth where he had stood. Dirt and stone exploded, knocking him flat. His ears rang. Some warriors loosed arrows, but they bounced off its armored hide. Spears shattered. Nothing stopped it. Kaylin shouted orders, but her voice could barely rise above the chaos. Through the madness, James's eyes caught movement. Lyra, the young woman who had helped him before. She was running toward him, her face pale with fear. "Stay back," James shouted, though she could not understand. The monster roared again, the force of it shaking the village. James pulled himself to his feet, blood dripping down his arm, his chest heaving. He had no choice. He had survived the trial of fire. He had survived the warriors. Now he faced the god of the jungle itself, and this time, if he failed, not only he would die, the entire tribe would fall with him. The jungle shook as if the world itself was alive. The Old One, the beast of legends, towered above the tribe. Its scales glowed green in the firelight, and its roar sent birds fleeing into the sky. The ground cracked under its steps, huts trembled, and fear filled every face. James had never seen such terror. The same women who had trapped him, who had tested him, now backed away in panic. Spears lowered, shields dropped. For the first time, the mighty tribe looked helpless, and the beast's eyes glowed only for him. James's chest tightened. His body ached from battle. His blood painted the dirt. But something inside him refused to stop. He knew the truth. If he ran, the tribe would be slaughtered. If he stood, maybe there was a chance. Kaylin shouted orders, her voice cutting the chaos. "Form the line, hold the god back." But even she knew their weapons were useless. Arrows cracked, spears bounced, fire faded. The Old One roared again, crushing huts with a single step. James's hands shook. He searched the wreckage of his shuttle with desperate eyes. And then he saw it, half buried under broken metal, a single piece of surviving tech. A plasma cutter, small but deadly. He sprinted for it. The ground shook behind him, claws digging deep, breath hot on his back. He dove, fingers closing around the weapon. It hissed alive with blue light. The beast struck. James rolled, swinging the plasma cutter, slicing across its leg. Sparks and green blood spilled into the dirt. The monster howled, shaking the trees. The tribe gasped. For the first time, the god bled. Kaylin's eyes widened. She shouted to her warriors, "Do not fear. The man strikes true." Some of the women regained their courage. They surrounded the beast, stabbing with spears, loosing arrows, distracting its massive frame. James attacked again, slashing at the softer joints in its armored hide. But the old one was not an animal. It was fury itself. Its tail swept through the circle, sending warriors flying. Its claws slammed into the earth, breaking torches and throwing James against the wreckage. Pain shot through his ribs. His vision blurred, but he pushed himself up. He couldn't stop now. The young woman, Lyra, appeared again, running to his side. She carried a spear of bone glowing with symbols. She pressed it into his hand, her eyes wide with fear but also hope. "Take it," she whispered, the only word he almost understood. James grabbed the spear, balancing it with the plasma cutter. His heart pounded. He had no plan, no time, but he had to finish this. The beast roared and lunged. James ran straight toward it. The tribe screamed, but he didn't stop. At the last second, he dove under its claw, rolled between its legs, and drove the glowing spear deep into the soft flesh of its underbelly. The beast shrieked, thrashing wildly. Its tail slammed into the ground, throwing Kaylin across the clearing. Warriors scattered, but James held on, twisting the weapon deeper. Green blood poured over him. With a final furious cry, he activated the plasma cutter, slicing through the wound. The beast convulsed, roared one last time, and collapsed with a thunderous crash. The earth went still. Silence fell across the village. Smoke curled into the sky. The torches flickered low. And in the center of the carnage stood James, covered in blood and firelight, his chest rising and falling, the spear still in his hand. Every eye turned to him. The man who was once a prisoner now stood as their savior. Kaylin pushed herself up, her body bruised, but her spirit unbroken. She looked at him with something new, respect. "The gods have chosen him," she said quietly. The tribe fell to their knees, bowing their heads. For the first time in centuries, they had seen a man stand against the old one and win. James staggered, the world spinning. His body screamed for rest, but his heart burned with something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. Lyra rushed forward, catching him before he fell. Her hands shook as she touched his face, whispering words he couldn't understand, but he felt the meaning: gratitude. The tribe surrounded him, not with spears, this time, but with chants of honor. Their voices rose like thunder, carrying through the jungle. James wanted to speak, to tell them he was no god, only a man. But before he could, darkness pulled him under. When he opened his eyes again, he was inside a hut, lying on a bed of soft leaves. Strange herbs burned in a bowl nearby, filling the air with healing smoke. His wounds were bandaged, his ribs wrapped. Lyra sat beside him, watching silently. When she saw his eyes open, she smiled for the first time. "You live," she whispered. James nodded weakly. He didn't know the word, but he knew the feeling. He was alive. Outside, the drums returned, but this time, they were not the rhythm of trial or war. They were the rhythm of celebration. The tribe had a new protector, but in the shadows, Kaylin watched with narrowed eyes. Her voice was low, meant only for herself. "The gods do not give gifts freely. If they sent him here, there is more to come." The drums of Vera had changed. For generations, their beat was for war, for hunts, for judgment. Now they beat for something new. Victory. The old one, the god-beast of the jungle, lay dead beyond the village walls. And at the center of their celebration stood James, the first man their world had seen in centuries. But James didn't stand proud. He sat weakly on the edge of the fire pit, his body wrapped in bandages, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. He had survived, but the price was clear. His strength was fading. Still, the tribe's women gathered around him, chanting, their faces lit with awe. They touched his arms, his shoulders, as if confirming he was real. The word spread like fire. Through the crowd. Man, man, man. High Huntress Kaelin rose, her spear shining in the torchlight. Her voice carried over the chanting. Generations have passed since men walked among us, she declared. But the gods have returned one to us. He faced the beast of fire. He faced the warriors. He faced the Old One itself. And he still breathes. The crowd cheered, their voices echoing across the jungle. Kaelin stepped closer to James, her sharp eyes studying him. You are no spirit. You are no curse. You are man. And by the law of the tribe, you belong to us now. James couldn't understand the words, but he understood the weight of her tone. He wasn't just a prisoner anymore. He was something greater, something dangerous. Later, as the fire dimmed, James sat inside Kaelin's hut. Only the leader and the young woman Lyra remained with him. Kaelin's expression was calm but unreadable. You will stay, she said, in her tongue. The tribe accepts you. James shook his head slowly. I don't belong here. He pointed toward the sky, his hand trembling. I came from there, from the stars. Kaelin frowned, not understanding, but Lyra's eyes widened. She leaned closer, tracing a finger in the air, drawing a falling line like fire. She whispered softly, "From the sky." James nodded. At last, someone understood, even a little. The night stretched long. Lyra stayed by his side, offering him water, fruits, and comfort. Her presence softened the sharp edges of fear. She didn't treat him like a god or a weapon. She treated him like a person. Kaelin watched them both with suspicion. She had seen too many storms in her life to believe this was chance. Men had not walked their world in centuries. Why now? Why him? Morning came. The tribe gathered once more at the fire pit. The dead beast's skull was raised high, its green blood painted across shields as proof of their victory. And James was brought forward. Kaelin stood beside him, her spear raised. From this day, we live with a man among us. He has earned his place. He has shown strength and he has shown spirit. The women roared in approval. But then Kaelin's voice turned darker. But remember, gifts from the gods carry shadows. His coming is a sign. The stars do not send life without sending death. The tribe fell silent. James stood in confusion, the chanting gone. He felt their eyes on him again, not with awe, but with fear. He realized the truth. He might be accepted, but he would never truly be safe. That night, James sat by the fire with Lyra. She drew symbols in the dirt, trying to teach him words of her language. She pointed to herself. Lyra, he pointed to his chest. James, she smiled, repeating it softly. James. For the first time since the crash, he smiled too, but the moment was broken. A horn sounded from the jungle, loud, urgent. The tribe rose, grabbing weapons, forming lines. Kaelin's voice cut the air. Scouts return, they bring word from beyond the jungle. 2 warriors entered the clearing, dragging something behind them, a shattered piece of metal marked with symbols James knew all too well. His breath caught. It was not from his shuttle. It was from another ship. James staggered forward, his eyes wide. The piece was fresh, smoke still curling from its edges. Kaelin studied his face. What is this? Another god's tool? James's voice shook. No, not gods, not beasts, humans. He looked at the wreckage again, his blood running cold. It wasn't just any ship. It was a hunter's vessel, one he recognized from old wars. And if it was here, it meant one thing. He hadn't fallen here by accident. Someone had sent him, and worse, others were coming. The drums beat again, not for victory, not for trial, but for war. The first man in centuries had arrived, but he would not be the last.